Welcome to the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. In today's episode, we sit down with the amazing Susan Sly. Susan's a dynamic entrepreneur with a career that spans technology, finance, and personal development. She's co-founded an AI company. She's an accomplished speaker who shared the stage with industry giants such as Tony Robbins, and she successfully completed numerous Boston marathons and Ironman triathletes while overcoming personal hurdles like a multiple sclerosis diagnosis and a fractured pelvis. Join us as Susan unpacks the truth behind the illusion of overnight success and dives deep into the personal grit that's required to achieve greatness. She shares her insights into balancing multiple ventures, tackling male-dominated industries, and the future of AI technology. Plus, Susan imparts invaluable wisdom on building strong teams, taking calculated risks, and reinventing yourself. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or looking to break through barriers in your own life, this is an episode that you won't want to miss. As always, if you found value from this content, please like and subscribe. Okay, Susan Sly, welcome to Beyond Fulfillment.
Well, Dave, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited you took the time to be here. So let's get right into it. Susan, you've spoken about the illusion of overnight success. Can you pinpoint a moment where you realized the true grit that's required to build something lasting, and how did that shift your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it had to be around 2007, and I'm in a hotel room in LA. I was actually at the Hilton, and I was speaking the next day, doing a multi-speaker event with John Assaraf, who'd been The Secret, and a whole host of folks. And I couldn't sleep, so I'm scrolling the television, Dave, and it's A&E biography, and the biography is of Natalie Cole, and she said something. She's like, there's this saying, and it goes like this: you only see the glory, you don't know the story. And I thought about it and I went, how true is that, right? People could see me and go, oh, she's run the Boston Marathon 6 times, but they don't know I'm a Boston Marathon bombing survivor. Or she's top 10 Ironman triathlete, but they don't know I did it with a fractured pelvis and I had been diagnosed with MS a year before, and it would be my last pro race. Or they could see, all the things I've accomplished as an entrepreneur, but not know the number of times that, I either had tears in my eyes or the wall kicking moment. And even if we look at social media, the whole concept of Instagram perfect or TikTok perfect, and what we don't see is what's going on behind the scenes, the grit that it actually takes to achieve, which is really, we've heard that saying, you fall off the horse 7 times, you get back up 8, right? So it's how many times you're willing to get back up in order to go for what you know within you is a possibility for you to create.
In my world, a personal brand is invaluable. A year ago, Easy DC was brand new with just a couple of customers and no online presence. Then I found Hicks Marketing. They helped me amplify my personal brand, build a solid content strategy, publish my podcast, and 10x the number of customers we serve, all in less than 1 year. Do you need a marketing partner who gets you and cares about your success? Reach out to Alicia at hicksmarketing.com for more info and tell her Dave Goulas sent you. Yeah, so often, right? People only see the glory and they don't know the story. I love that quote. Okay, so juggling multiple ventures, family, yeah, your commitment to philanthropy, and so, the athletic achievements as well that you mentioned. How do you define balance, and what strategies have you used to maintain it?
That's a great question too. When I wrote the book back in 2007, The Have It All Woman, one of the concepts I talked about was this concept of having it all. And The Atlantic had done an article talking about women cannot have it all. We can have something at one time, but we can never have it all at the same time. And I vehemently disagreed because I said it really having it all is an individual definition, right? Oprah doesn't have kids. I'm sure she feels like she does have it all. Does she have fulfilling relationships that work for her? Money, all sorts of things. Yes, right. So the same thing is true, Dave, of balance, that balance is a personal definition. Once we create a personal definition of something, it becomes attainable. When the definition isn't personal, it's this esoteric kind of something that is out there. It's the same as love or wealth or fulfillment. All of those things don't mean anything unless they mean something personal to us. So when I look at the concept of balance, balance for me is I work out. I feel more balanced if I work out for 90 minutes than I do for 20. That's just me. Balance is a day that I laughed. Balance is a day that I got to create. Balance is a day that I got to do something that propelled me forward to the life that I'm creating, right? So it really is a personal definition. I would say to everyone listening, what is your definition of balance? And if you don't have one, make sure after this podcast that you create one. Because if you aren't creating it, you're living into someone else's definition. It's never going to be healthy and you're never going to feel fulfilled.
Okay. And from tech to finance, you've navigated industries that are traditionally dominated by men.
Mhm.
What specific challenges did you face, and what advice would you give to women that are breaking barriers today?
The I for a while I would look at the statistics and they didn't look good. So we say that less than 2.5% of pitches to VCs by women get funded. So that means going into a pitch to raise venture capital as a woman, there's a 97.5% chance you're not going to get funded. So if you knew, and I want the guys to imagine, let's say you were single and you knew that you would ask 100 women out on dates, but only two would say yes, would you go through all 100 or be like, I'm just going to be a monk? So right? So we know that that's a statistic. We also know that women, startups that have at least one female co-founder are 68% more profitable their first 2 years. They're more likely to succeed. So the statistics are not necessarily in women's favor, even though they are. And there are these old, I guess, old beliefs, right, around women. And I had a chip on my shoulder for a very long time, even though I was raised by a single dad. I love men, I love good people. But I went into every room, every pitch, thinking I was already defeated at times. And now I think so differently than I used to because I look at what I'm creating. And what I'm creating is an environment of love, possibility, healing, and win win in every conversation I go into. And if that's the environment that I'm a stand for, the right people are going to get on board for my vision. And the people who don't align with it, it's not for them. And because I'm all in, I'm so willing. If it is talk to 100 to have two say yes, then so be it, right? Although I have found that since I have released that chip that was on my shoulder and that story, that false belief that I had that I wasn't investable because I was a woman, let alone a brown woman, that as I shifted that narrative to it's just there are good people everywhere, there's a lot of money flowing, the right people are on board for the vision, I'm having better conversations. So I would just say to any woman listening, really take a look in the mirror and ask yourself what your narrative is, because just like we wouldn't want to be cast in the same bucket as every single woman on the planet, we don't want every man to be cast in the same vein as every other man. Not every man is a Bernie Madoff, as an example, an opportunist. So shifting your belief begins to shift your reaction, and your reaction will dictate the results that you're attracting.
Okay. And just to follow up on that, how were you able to release that chip on your shoulder?
Yeah. Over the years, I have done a tremendous amount of personal development work, even intense personal development work. And I've also taught personal development work. So I've done speaking events with Tony Robbins, and I've taken my kids to Tony Robbins events. I have done workshops with women, Dave, where it's 4 intense days of 16-hour days, working through stuff, helping women find their voice. And for me, it was just little by little really taking a look at what were those limiting beliefs that I had and how were they holding me back from my results. And I want to give a shout out to Chris Lee. Chris Lee is Lewis Howe's personal coach. I had the privilege of working with Chris intensely for 3 days. He really helped me see some of the things, the limiting beliefs that I had in. And hey, you can have limiting beliefs, Dave, and still create amazing results, right? But at some point, what's going to happen is as you're trying to grow further, you're going to become stuck. Your finances will be stuck, your relationships will be stuck, and you have to do something that is going to shift you in order to that next level. And that's what happened to me. I was stuck for a couple of years. I was frustrated. And then finally I said, you know what? I know the tools, I've taught the tools, but I need to put myself back through that process, which I did, and fully released it. And now I'm having just such better conversations, which I'm excited about.
Wow. Okay. And your work in AI and in technology is very forward thinking.
Mm.
So, given where we are today, what's one prediction you have for the future of business, and how can entrepreneurs prepare for that?
Uh, if you look at when I co-founded my last AI company, it was 2018. And AI was kind of this, people were talking, but it was really machine learning. And AI was reserved for enterprise, for people who had, millions and millions of dollars to spend. What happened when OpenAI said, we're going to democratize AI and we're going to make tools like ChatGPT available to everyone. And then we had Anthropic, and we have all sorts of different models that are there. It shifted, and we look at the adoption of even using tools like ChatGPT, or, as you and I have spoken about outside the show, creating custom GPTs for ourselves to have these AI assistants. So the adoption of AI is so rapid. Where we're going and where we're growing. 2 years ago, everyone was talking about generative AI. Now everyone's talking about AI agents. We call that agentic AI. What we are going to begin to see is more multimodal inputs. And so AI data sets that are built from not just voice data, not just text data, but also image data, sensory data, where I came from, computer vision using security cameras. And so as we begin to use AI for more of our everyday life, we are also going to see that this global job market is going to shift. So prior to the pandemic, McKinsey predicted that by 2030, which is in 5 years from now, 800 million workers would be displaced by AI. That accelerated because of the pandemic and companies saying we need to use more AI tools to augment work, to support the workers that are willing to work, to even replace and to become more profitable, more productive. So the landscape is changing rapidly. People are graduating with degrees that are obsolete by the time they graduate. And so what I want everyone to think about is that this global AI landscape is going to change how we do everything. And you have a couple of choices. One is you can sit back and say, well, it's not going to affect me. That would be like saying the internet isn't going to affect me back in, 1995 to 2000 with that great adoption period that happened. Or you can say, I want to learn about it. I want to understand it. I want to figure out how AI is going to work in my life. And I would say, really, really skill up, because some of the jobs that we think are not going to be impacted by AI, like being a teacher, being an accountant. Those are some of the top jobs that are most likely to be disrupted greatly by AI. And I even say, are we going to have influencers in 5 years? Mango, the Spanish company, Dave, that is a clothing company, they did their whole spring campaign last year all with AI. You wouldn't know they weren't humans. So the models are getting more sophisticated, they're cheaper to deploy. And we're going to see a lot of disruption. It's personally something, as someone who is working in AI, especially in women's health, that I'm very passionate about, that we use AI ethically and we use it for good. But I can't speak for everyone on the planet that that's their MO in terms of AI deployment.
Mm. Okay, so skill up. That is the major message regarding AI.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And building a business is about taking calculated risks. What's the biggest risk that you've taken, and what did you learn from that outcome?
I think as you go along in entrepreneurship, your risk tolerance becomes bigger, but your ability to your point, calculate that risk also becomes bigger. So bigger risk, but a better calculation. So like in accounting, there's a term called SWOT testing: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As a seasoned entrepreneur and an investor, I can SWOT test something really quickly. So the biggest risk, I would say, is the one I'm in now, leaving my last company, stepping into a startup where, I'm still not paying myself. It's like on my show, Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. And, I want you to come on my show. The the grittiest founders, we don't pay ourselves. So you're stepping away from a job with health benefits, where even though I was an entrepreneur and I co-founded that company, I had 4 co-founders, and now I'm going into my own company where I'm not getting paid, raising money, building a product from scratch, doing all of those things. And that, I would say that the biggest risk I'm always in is the one I'm in now, because as I shift and I skill up and I, become more educated in any field and build the relationships, I'm more determined in the risk, but it doesn't mean it's less risky. I'm a mom, so I have mouths to feed. I have I have tuitions to pay and all of that good stuff. So it's the one I'm in now. And I think it's healthy to be aware of it because it keeps you hungry. If you do not feel there's any risk and you don't feel indentured to investors, you don't feel indentured to employees to live into what you're speaking, then you're not hungry enough. And I would not bet on someone who isn't hungry. There's no way.
Okay. And you've also talked about the power of building a strong team.
Mhm.
So, what's your philosophy on hiring, and how do you create a culture of excellence?
Well, I used to hold on to people too long because my greatest strength is I believe in people, and my greatest weakness is I believe in people. So the hiring philosophy is shifted. So we have a 3-step process. We use the pause. And so we have a technical interview, a cultural interview, and a final interview. The first interview is about 15 minutes. It's just, does this person seem like they could possibly qualify for our time for the next series of interviews? And we look at it. So in each interview, there's generally 3 team members, and they're from a cross section. So the technical interview is likely to have someone who's not that technical because they're reading the person as they're answering the questions. The cultural interview, we might have someone, our chief of staff, we might have someone from sales and marketing, but they're there to read the person and decide. And then the final interview comes to me. For our culture, we have 2 core key values. That's it: trust and wow. Trust encompasses everything, encompasses integrity. Are you going to be your word? Do you show up on time? What is your communication style? Are you a rapid communicator? Are you responsive? Then wow is, can you deliver wow? Can you show up with the product you're creating? Or what, if you're a graphic designer on our team or a social media person, can you deliver wow? Do you deeply care? So we don't need 25 core values, we have 2. And so, each step of the way, that person is being gauged on their ability to deliver trust and wow. And then we do not hire right away. Everyone gets a 30-day trial contract. And we are looking at all of those things I just said. How are they communicating? How we have a culture in our company. Every Friday, we do Friday shout outs. And each team member must give a shout out. And some people listening is like, well, that's really contrived. Guess what? Ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find. If you're there looking for reasons to appreciate your teammates because you know your CEO is looking for you to show up on Friday and give those, then you're going to be more apt to look for the good in people. So we have team members that will go and list one for everyone. If you're a C-suite leader or a head of a department, we're a small company, you're generally giving a shout out to every single person. If you're new, you might give it to one or two people, but that's our culture. We also do an all team meeting, so we don't have silos. The engineering team comes with sales team, comes with marketing team. Everyone comes together. It's agile methodology. What'd you work on last week? What are you working on this week? What are your blockers? How can we help? And we get off that meeting. And our lead investor comes to that meeting too. So we do things very differently, but the biggest thing I had to learn how to do is fire quickly, and not try and make someone into something they're not, because it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for them. Even though they might not fit at our company, they might be a great fit at someone else's.
Okay. Wow. Couple of follow-ups to that, but how'd you come up with those as just the two core values, trust and wow?
I think I would say that experiencing everything but trust and wow was that. But where it came from is I went to MIT Sloan, so their School of Business, and then I recently graduated MIT Executive Education on the engineering side. But at MIT, we did a case study on hotels.com. And this is what really inspired me, Dave, to take a look at this whole concept. So at hotels.com, they any of their engineers can do A/B testing on whatever they want. They have some guardrails, but there are repos where they can look and see what tests have been done before. They can pull one off the shelf and say, I want to test it again, or I want to test it in a different way. And they come back with the results. And so the leaders of this company say, wow, we trust our employees to go and do those tests. And so in my last company, I said, what if we could do the same thing? So our pre-sales team, they would, we bring them together with the engineers, the salespeople, and we're like, look, you can create whatever you want as long as it has trust and wow. It can't just have trust. It can't just have wow. It has to have both. And so bring it to me. I don't want to micromanage people because that is so egomaniacal. It makes it seem like I have all the answers. I don't. So that was where I first brought that in. And then when we went to start my new company, I have a couple of employees who are with me in this new company from my previous company. And one of them said to me, Susan, if you had to choose trust or wow, which would it be? And another employee said, that's like asking Susan to choose between her two children. She's not going to do it. It's both. Right. And so that's where it really came from. And so it allows our team members to operate with austerity. It allows me to be in the business and to show up as an employee, not as an owner, where I'm delivering trust and wow as well. So that's where it came from. That's how we use it. And that allows us this freedom to go and do all the things we're doing in the world and build those relationships and build the company.
Okay. And just one more quick follow-up. So with the 30-day trial period, what percentage would you say of the people that go on the trial actually get hired?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the for us, we're vetting very rigorously on the front end. So recently, I mean, we went through a period of time where we had some external contractors and they were on for 6 months, and then we off ramp them. And then the second group of external contractors, they were off in 90 days because the signs were there. We had another person that, again, off in 30 days because the signs were already there. So we're also getting better in our front end hiring process. So I'm going to say TBD, but where I would like our team to get to is to have much more rigor up front so that our retention rate after 30 days is 100%. We're not there yet, but we're growing as a team. And even our head of product, Nate, said to me, okay, Susan, I'm getting better at the interviews. I'm getting better at asking the questions, and I'm getting better at looking at the resumes. And so, which I'm really excited for him growing as a person. So, TBD, Dave.
Okay. All right. Now, Susan, you've had to reinvent yourself multiple times. What advice do you have for someone who feels stuck in their current career or business?
Yeah, I would take a look at it and say, if you feel stuck, the number one reason you feel stuck is you. We are always stuck when the world isn't meeting our expectations. And so that is the challenge. So I'm just going to list three key things. Number one is, what is it you really want? I just, just before we got into the show, I had a conversation with someone and I said, what do you really want? And they said, I don't know. And I said, life is giving you a lot of I don't know. You have good days, you have bad days, you have good moments, you have bad moments, because when you don't know, that's the worst thing that can happen, right? And so getting clear. I used to be an executive coach. That was like not a full-time gig, but I had so many other entrepreneurs coming to me, and my time is valuable. I'm like, okay, I will, take a couple of clients and you can pay me. But I had, one person, really stuck, not happy in their job, and they're so in it. And I said, how much PTO do you have? And she's like, I never use all my PTO. I said, I want you to take a day off. Where's your happy place? And she's like, the ski hill. And I said, great. And where's your happy place on the ski hill? And she's like, I love to go do a few runs, and then I love to go and sit in the lodge. I said, great. I want you to go to the ski hill. I want you to take your notebook, and I want you to take a day, and I want you to step back, and I want you to figure out what it is you really want. And she came back from that day just out of her environment, and she was so clear. And that's the second thing. Number one, you know what you want. And number two, why do you want that? It doesn't have to be this Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King kind of why. It just could be because I know my current environment isn't healthy, or I want flexibility. I want to work from home, or I want to be in a culture where I love and appreciate, and I'm loved and appreciated. So getting clear on why you want something is key, because people buy into your why, not your resume necessarily. And the third thing is this ability to say yes and surrender, right? So when I co-founded my last company, I haven't written code since 1992. And so they brought me in because, can you help us sell? Can you help us raise money? Those happen to be things that are a skill set that I have, right? So there I am co-founding a bleeding edge AI company. And it's like, crap, I need to learn AI really quickly. So I was pivoting. So I was surrendered. I had pivoted. I was clear on why I wanted a challenge. I wanted to grow. I could see AI, wanted to be part of it. And I'm on LinkedIn, and this MIT class, like for executives, 6-week intensive AI for executives. And I bought the class. And that was it, because I was so surrendered. I believe, Dave, I wouldn't have seen that ad had I not been surrendered, had I not been clear on my why, had I not been clear that it was time. And for anyone listening, don't do something just for money, because you're going to lose the money. It is just the law of attraction at in action at work. And you may say, well, Susan, that's kind of like airy fairy. It's not true. As you grow and evolve in your consciousness, doing something just for money is not a why that is ever going to fulfill you. You will lose the money. Someone will sue you. Something will happen. when you do something that really allows you to add value to someone, to serve, like Dave is so focused on how he's showing up for this podcast Beyond Fulfillment in order to serve all of you, the money just begins to flow. And I know some of you are like, well, I have a medical bill or I can't pay my mortgage. Great. You're in a situation. How fabulous is that? That it is forcing you at rapid fire to look in the mirror and pivot and change, figure out how you're going to serve people, and the money will come. It doesn't mean you don't have a solid plan. It doesn't mean that you're not skilling up, you're not doing all of those things. But I know for myself, if I only focus on revenue and not on people I'm serving, that the people stop coming into any business that I create. So I would say, Dave, that for everyone listening, it's an opportunity. You're hearing this show for a reason. You were shared the show, whatever reason you're here. And Dave and I want to hear from you. We want to hear, what is it you're taking away? What is it you're going to do to show up? What is it that you, now hearing my words as you're hearing them, is resonating for you to make that change and pivot? Because if you do it for the right reasons, you're going to live a life that's so freaking fabulous that you're going to look back and say, why did I choose suffering for so long?
Wow. Well said.
Thank you.
All right. And Susan, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I for a long time, I didn't feel like I was enough. And so I showed up with the I'm not enough chip on my shoulder. And when that's a chip you have on your shoulder, you have to prove to everyone how enough you are. And I would go back and I would say, you are enough. You're enough for whatever circumstance you're in at that time. And as you grow and learn and expand, you will expand your abilities. You'll expand your skills. You'll expand as a vessel for receiving love, for receiving wealth, for receiving increase, all of it. And that didn't go on for years. It went on for decades. And when someone has that, we all have our rackets, right? When someone has that racket, I'm not enough, then you're going to attract a lot of people into your life that are going to validate that limiting belief that you're not enough. And they're going to deceive you. They're going to lie to you. And as you begin to shift and say, you know what, I am enough, I'm okay, it changes who shows up. It changes the conversation. So that's the advice I would give myself.
Okay. All right. Well, Susan, it's been wonderful talking to you. I could talk to you for hours about all this stuff, but we greatly appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all your valuable wisdom from your entrepreneurial journey with our audience. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dave, for having me. And again, anyone who's listening, we would, tag me on Instagram at Susan Sly. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on all the socials, even TikTok. But, what are you receiving from the show? And was there a thread that we pulled on that you feel like you have more questions? Reach out, tag us, and give Dave Show a 5-star review, right? There's every day in every way, a message I want to give to everyone, Dave, is always be learning, always be growing. And one of my friends, she was on The Bachelor, major influencer. She just texted me and she's like, I stopped listening to true crime podcasts. I stopped doing these different things because I want to grow. And I would say, if you want to grow, if you want more wealth, you want more increase, then what are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Listen to this show. Listen to my show, Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, where I interview entrepreneurs. We talk about the depths of entrepreneurship, the tough topics, coming back from infidelity, cancer, being introverted, all of those things, and how you go on to have a successful exit or how you go on to grow and scale a company. So what are you listening to? What are you paying attention to? Who are you paying attention to? Who are you listening to? And if Dave and I have served you in any way, we'd love to stay connected.
Absolutely. And we will link all your info and all your social links in the show notes for everyone. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
All right. And that is all the time we have for now. We will see you next time.